This is the Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to the Philanthropy Show. I'm your host, Luann Saraga Walters. You know, for the nonprofit who wants to get their mission known or the successes, the great things that they're doing, it's sometimes hard. We don't know exactly how to craft that perfect media release or get it to the press. Well, we have got a show for you today because we are welcoming none other than Tampa Bay's very own Stacie Schaible, main anchor with the 6 p.m. news for WFLA, Go NBC.
Thank you.
Which is my old affiliate from the days of.
Right.
So thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
Really love having you here. And we have a lot to cover, but first, you've been an icon and with Gail Sierens now, and now she's just, after how many years did Gail?
38.
Wow.
38 years
38
she was there.
years.
So she deserves this. She's on a cruise right now, so I keep following her on Facebook.
Oh, that's cool.
And we used to giggle about it because everybody was like, are you going to miss it? Are you going to be sad? She's like, no, I'm not going to be sad. I worked really hard for a long time. I'm ready for this.
Absolutely. Well, but you've been there for 15 years.
Correct.
Wow. That's wonderful. But you're not a Tampa Bay native.
No, I'm a Minnesota girl.
She's from Minnesota.
And I can still do the accent, too.
Oh, my gosh. That helps when you get pulled over.
Yeah, I had to lose the accent for here. But.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, we discovered early on, I think I met you maybe a year and a half ago at WEDU. We were doing a social media panel with
yes.
Lizette and others in the media industry in Tampa Bay, and quickly discovered that you had been at a station in Duluth with, was that another NBC affiliate?
That was CBS.
CBS, okay. With a former colleague and friend of mine that I worked with at the NBC affiliate when I was the 10 p.m. anchor at KWQC in Davenport, Iowa.
So we have
Teresa Bryant
in common.
Exactly, which is fantastic. And we just so happened to finagle. You know, we've got a virtual set here, which we wouldn't have done 20 years ago.
No.
But we also didn't have to go through satellite uplinks or downlinks or anything.
And pay for satellite uplinks or downlinks.
Exactly, but we have a special guest via the iPad. Would you please, Sharon, bring over our very own Teresa Bryant, who has been waiting patiently on her iPad, and we've rigged a lavalier microphone on the back of this so that we could actually record her.
Hello, T-Saw.
T-Saw.
That was the nickname.
T-Swa. Now, where did that come from?
I don't know. She was T-ster, she was T, she was T-Swa, she was a lot of things.
Yeah.
Wow. All good, though, you know.
All good. And I didn't earn very many pig demerits from her. That was
No,
what
you
she
did
gave
not.
out when people were naughty.
You gave out
Yes.
pig demerits?
They were little pictures, little cartoon pig pictures that I used to draw, that I used to hand out to people who were indulged in various pig-like behaviors. So.
Well, I want to establish...
So if you got a pig demerit, you should consider yourself well loved by me. I only gave them to people I loved.
That okay? It's a term of it was a present of endearment. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
I want to establish, T, that Teresa Bryant is the weather person with KWQC in Davenport, Iowa. So that's why we see her still with all of her weather.
That's right. Owned by the same company that owns Stacie's station. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We're sisters again.
Yeah, we're all good. You know,
in the
all
family.
in the family.
Well, and Teresa, I know we briefly talked about this, but you know Stacie is now main. She's the 6 p.m. She's in.
Yes,
We're
I
so
know.
happy.
She's in like Flynn. Yeah.
I like it. I'm very happy because, as you know, I have 2 children, T, so working only till 6:30 rather than midnight works great for me.
You know, I am so happy and thrilled for you. I told you this before, but I'll say it again so everybody can hear it. It not only can't happen to a nicer person, but also a more talented and wonderful journalist. The folks in Tampa, they already know what they've got, you know, and I'm just so happy for you and so thrilled for you know, this opportunity for you.
Thank you. And I worked with Teresa in my very first job in Duluth, Minnesota, and I remember my dad took me up fresh out of college for the interview. And all he told me, these were his sage words, because I said, what if they don't like me? Or what if, I'm not sure I even know what I'm doing. And he said, just be yourself. And I think, Teresa, you're the exact same way. If you're authentic, people know it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So what I want to do real quickly, T, is take a selfie if we can figure out how to do this. So Stacie, you and I need to get in a little bit.
Okay.
And we're going to...
All right.
All right, ready? Here we go. if I can do this. Yay, I think I got it, but I think I covered up my face. One more time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, well, we got, hey, thank you for joining us. We're going to let you go because I know you're busy at the station.
Good to see you. And this is fabulous. I mean, I didn't have to make a flight to see you, so thank you for joining us.
Congratulations again, sweetie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, T. All right, bye-bye. Here we go. Well, that was fun.
It was fun.
Isn't it funny how we make these connections in news and
I love
you
that
just
the world's
continue
small
on.
now. Yeah. That you can go back and find these people that, you know, back when.
And just reconnect.
Yep.
And Facebook has done that. And now with the magic of being able to do virtual type interviews and whatnot. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
But when we come back, I really want to start diving into how can nonprofits tell their story better? What are some things that they can look at? And from your perspective, because you're right there in the newsroom, what's a good way to get that message out?
Okay.
So we'll look at different aspects of that. We're talking today with Stacie Schaible from WFLA. We'll be back right after this break.
This show sponsored in part by
My Paper Pusher. Consider it done.
I'm Samantha Abraham, CEO of My Paper Pusher, with your financial tip of the week. How do you choose whether you should engage an outsourced bookkeeping firm or have a staff member handle your bookkeeping? Nonprofits need to ask 3 questions when making that decision. First, are the organization's limited administrative resources best spent hiring a professional bookkeeping firm, hiring a full-time finance professional, or finding an employee who can do it all, so to speak? Second, does the staff member have the capacity to execute these bookkeeping functions in a timely manner? And last, does the staff member have the training to execute bookkeeping functions at the high level of expertise needed by the organization and its financial team? Remember, outsourcing accounting is often the most efficient way to access professional level accounting skills and expertise while saving time, money, and human resources. I'm Samantha Abraham with My Paper Pusher, where you can consider it done.
The Firehouse Cultural Center is a multicultural arts facility for all ages and diversities serving South Hillsborough County. It presents engaging programming in the arts, humanities, and education. Programs range from summer arts camp, classes, artists' residencies, film, to live music, comedy, and theater performances. Visit www.firehouseculturalcenter.org for more information.
Follow the Philanthropy Show on Facebook for behind-the-scenes action, polls, and commentary.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. Talking today with Stacie Schaible from WFLA. Primed to have you here because this is something that I think the nonprofit world could really benefit from, whether you're in Tampa or Toledo. It doesn't matter. To learn how to craft your story in a more interesting way for those folks in the newsroom who can say, is this newsworthy? What can we use for this? What are the angles can we look at? So let me start right off the bat and say, what is it like in the newsroom today? Because it's shifted a little bit. And what are you looking for?
Well, a lot of it goes now electronically. So everything's a press release. It seems like there's more PR agencies than ever.
Yeah.
So even if a nonprofit is using a PR agency, the problem is it never feels special, like it's only being pitched to us. And of course, everybody wants to feel special, even a TV station, right? And as I was joking with you about before, we get so many golf tournaments that it's really not newsworthy. Yeah. And even if they make $5,000, $50,000, or $100,000, that's fabulous for the nonprofit, but it's not necessarily news. And so the easiest way for me to explain to a nonprofit to get a story told is to find a good story. And a golf tournament is not that. A meeting is not that. A bowl-a-thon is not that.
Not even a grant necessarily, right?
No, that's boring. That's newspaper stuff, right? We need visual. We need to see something. We need to see who's being helped, how they're being helped, what's unique about your nonprofit, what makes it special. I'll give you a good example. I'm on the board of 2 nonprofits. One is called Starting Right Now, and that helps kids in the Hillsborough County School District get a hand up, not a handout. So it helps them if they're homeless in terms of getting a place to live, having a mentor, a job, a tutor if need be. And so that story isn't about the program itself, but it's about a kid who was on the streets or whose mom was a drug addict or who didn't ever have a father and didn't even tell anyone they were homeless.
And it's that child's story.
It's that child's story which then tells the bigger story of the nonprofit. And so every kid in that program is a story. Now, I also work with the American Heart Association. I'm on the board there because my sister had a heart attack when she was 40. Wow. And so I find that the ones that are nearest and dearest to my heart personally are the ones I really want to be involved with. Though I do, as you know, a lot of charity events.
You do a lot. And I wanted
year.
to, let me pause you on that because I want to go back, and we had a great fun visit with T, but we didn't get a chance to actually establish more of your background. Because Stacie is incredibly invested in the nonprofit community in Tampa Bay, and you do a lot of events and appearances and supporting of, and I didn't realize that you were on 2 boards. Thank you for everything that you do with the nonprofit community.
Well, you know, I think part of being an anchor, and you know this because that is in your history as well, is helping out with these community events. But some anchors like it more than others, and some see it as work, and some see it as a fortunate offshoot of their job. And for me, anytime I can get out in the community and help in any way, usually as a facilitator, a speaker, an MC, maybe even a board member, that makes me feel like I'm giving back in a special sort of way. And so this is actually my 4th job as a news anchor. I started in Duluth, Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota. From there, I went to Fargo, North Dakota, and I worked there when the movie came out.
Fargo,
right? They didn't like it much. No. They didn't. No one had really made fun of that accent before. And then next, after that, I worked in Austin, Texas. So I feel like I've been very blessed in all of my jobs. But when I came here and my sister had a heart attack at 40, I started volunteering with the Heart Association and just showing up for events, not as Stacie Schaible, the Channel 8 anchor, but just as Stacie Schaible. And they started to notice I was coming to these events, and it just kind of grew into a bigger role for me because it was a natural.
It was
my
organic.
sister did not know how she could have a heart attack at 40. I mean, we had heart disease in my family. My father had 2 heart attacks. He's had heart bypass surgery. I have an uncle who's had a heart transplant. And so we definitely knew that family history is a big part of it, but didn't realize it could strike you at such a young age. And so another way to tell that story, the story of the Heart Association, is a child who had a heart defect and is now thriving as a teenager. When you can go back through the years and show the impact that research and development and those dollars have made, that makes for a great TV story. Anything that's emotional and tugs at your heartstrings. I always say, tell me why what the story is going to make me feel. I might want to feel outraged, angry. I might want to feel that I'm going to be prompted to action. I might want to feel sad, happy. You might want to feeling confirmed. But I want to go at any story I do through the emotion. So if it's something that's going to irritate people and make people want to change things, that anger is an all right emotion when something is wrong.
You fundamentally hit on something that I've heard, two roads of thought, and these are from both PR firms and from folks who are marketing specialists or whatnot. But one thought is write your press release as if you were telling the story because you're the recipient, and just like you said, what's it going to make me feel? How am I going to respond to it? And the other mode of thought is just put the successes and the data out there and let the newsroom figure out what the story is.
Right.
What path do you go down?
I think it is different. You had touched on this before when we talked about if you know a reporter or if you know an anchor or someone in the newsroom, maybe they'll do your story just because you have that personal connection. I do think it helps. When you can pick up the phone and call me and pitch a story, I know you know what you're talking about because you've been in the business. But I don't necessarily want you to pitch the same story that you're going to pitch to the other stations to me, because we don't want to all tell the same story of that same little girl. So there is a level of personalization. What I'd really like, because I literally get hundreds and hundreds of emails every day, and most of the time I'm just slide, sweep, delete, you know. I want to hear, Stacie, here's a story that I think you need to tell. Here is why. And here's why it would work good on TV. You know, this little girl is a great gymnast, and you can come to the gym and hear her story. Because in TV, it really has to be visual. It's typically pretty boring to watch 2 people just sitting here talking, right? That's the format of the show. But I mean,
you're Stacie, so this is
okay,
different.
good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not sure you're right, but and so you have to give them a story to tell. Now, if the golf tournament was started by somebody who was a professional golfer, who had a son or daughter or a niece or nephew, then there's a hook for why golf needs to be part of that story. But just fundraising in and of itself, unless it's a phenomenal amount of money or there's some interesting, I guess, side story or sidebar to that.
Sure.
You need to make it visual and tell us why viewers would care.
You said something a couple of years ago. There was a, oh gosh, I don't remember. It was in the Center Club in Tampa. This might be 5 years ago, Stacie. I'm going way back. But I remember there was a question asked of you of, you know, we just got a $100,000 grant, and, you know, we thought that was a huge amount because here we are, a small XYZ nonprofit, and nobody picked it up. And I thought your response at the time was priceless, which was, just to be honest with you, we get so many submissions for, yay, here's my grant. And unless you're, I think, Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or something, you receive something, it's not really of impact. At what point, I mean, how can a nonprofit look, I guess, what can they watch for on the news to determine?
I mean, grants in and of themselves are boring.
Yeah.
Right?
It's what they do.
It's what they do. So if you could show us what you will now be able to do, but it's hard to visualize the future.
Right.
But if there's a drawing or if there's a new something that's going to come out of it or a new group that's going to be helped, so we could interview a couple of people who will be impacted who otherwise wouldn't have gotten these services. I think you just have to think outside the box and go, because seeing a check presented on TV, it's boring.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if it's somebody who gave that certain check, like when the Gates Foundation gave a big check to Hillsborough County, they could really quantify what this means to Hillsborough County and how many people. And when you have big numbers, those will get people's attention.
And Bill Gates has, that's a celebrity status.
Correct.
Anyway.
Correct.
Element.
And if it's a person giving the grant, and there's a reason that person is giving the grant, that might be of interest, I think. But generally, if it's a government grant, unless there's a big reason you won it and you beat out another 100 charities and there's a really cool visual way we can tell that story, there always needs to be in TV that visual, emotional hook. Visual, emotional hook.
You know, and I think what works for TV also works elsewhere at your donor appreciation events and whatnot. And we have a thing in the nonprofit world called the Benavon model, which is basically a 7-minute video that has that emotional hook and teaching of that. And it doesn't have to look exactly like that, but if you can think of the stories that you're trying to share in that manner of what's the life-changing element here that has really caused an impact. And like you said, I like how Stacie put into perspective, how's it going to make me feel?
Right.
What is it that you're wanting to accept? Does it make me angry? Does it make me frustrated? Does it make me incredibly happy? And we see a lot of that on Facebook.
Right. Yes. Some of the best stories, anything that goes viral has an emotional hook. I will guarantee you it has an emotional hook of some sort. It can be funny, it can be sad, it can be moving, it can be almost anything. But if it goes viral, there is some sort of hook. Now let's say you're a charity where maybe the people receiving the funds wouldn't be great on camera. Maybe there's a character, and when I say a character, think of a movie character, somebody who stands out. We have a character in our newsroom, and he's actually our mail guy. His name is Albert, but he goes by Buckified Bert. He loves the Buccaneers, and every time we have a meeting of any sort about anything, he brings up the Buccaneers. And he's the most energetic, thoughtful, giving guy. He'd be a great guy to tell the story of Channel 8 because he's a character who works there. Then you can sprinkle in other things, but if you can tell your story through a character, even if they're not the main character, but there's somebody that people will relate to or remember, then you can start telling about these other people who were helped or how much money was raised. But a character will help draw you in and be interested.
He's engaging you just because of his personality.
Right.
And his
So I'm
passion.
always like, give me something wonderfully visual. Give me a character. Give me an emotion. Give me something to sell to my boss.
You know, we brought up Facebook, and I love your page. You do a great job updating, and you
I try to be very authentic.
Well, and that's what I like because you're both professional and personal, which that's kind of a fine line to try to get into. I mean, how much do you share? How much do you not? So this, you know, when I was in TV, we didn't have social media.
Right.
Right?
It's a whole nother job.
I mean, well, and you have a lot of newscasts.
Right.
So talk about, I think this is good for them to understand too, and it's going to bring me up to date. What's a day in the life right now of working in the newsroom? You've got all this stuff going on and all these different responsibilities.
I am going to pause that only for 1 second because you brought up something else wonderful? Every nonprofit has a Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah.
Put your stories there and then share them various places or share them with people. Somehow give us an emotional story that maybe we'll stumble across. It could go viral and do gangbusters for your nonprofit. So Facebook, these free tools, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you have $1 million picture that's free that might go viral, that's huge. And even if it doesn't go viral, it could go local and be a big deal. Okay, so a day in the life. It hasn't changed a lot. You asked if my shift changed when I took over for Gail Sierens at 6. I still do the 4 to 5, which I have to tell you is such a fun show. That's a great opportunity, too. It's more of a talk show format. It's really a hybrid newscast talk show. And that's an opportunity for me to tell a lot of community stories and talk about characters, because we're not news of the day, you know, if it's bad news, we're going to put it in there. It's really geared toward a lot of people who are home at 4 in the afternoon who might want to hear more kind of Oprah-esque stories.
First at 4?
Yes, first at 4.
And you shoot on a green screen set, don't you?
I used to.
Okay.
We've now, well, we still have a green screen element if we want it. But we also did get a new set with various positions, so we can move around. So I do 4 to 5:30, and I anchor from 6 to 6:30, a much more traditional newscast.
Wow.
Which means I go in at 9, and people are always surprised about that. We have a 9 o'clock editorial meeting where all the reporters and everybody gathers to talk about what we're going to cover today. And I didn't always attend that, but recently I started attending it because they wanted some of my feedback.
Sure.
Having been in the market for a long time and having a lot of reporters who are new and haven't been in the market, it's a good chance for me saying, yeah, I like that, I think that would have traction, or no. And I don't, of course, have the final say. I'm just one voice of many.
Or this reminds me of something we did 5 years ago. Maybe this would be a good
That happened
combination.
yesterday.
Okay.
We have realtors who are being attacked in Pinellas County, would-be buyers suddenly showing up, tying them up and robbing them. I interviewed a woman years ago who, same thing, she was held at gunpoint, tied up, put in a closet, and changed careers. It changed her whole life, really. She survived and was on one of those TV shows, I'm Lucky to Be Alive kind of shows. They did a half-hour special on her because her story is so compelling. And so I remembered her and said, we should go interview this person. She's been there, been through it, and now they can talk about layers of security that, you know, realtors need. Think about that. They're always alone in their own vehicle, meeting at empty houses. They're targets, right?
Yeah.
So those kinds of things. After the meeting, then I'll typically go do a lot of my social media stuff. I pick pictures, I look for interesting stories on there. Then I'll typically get a longer lunch break because I do work a longer day, a 9 or 10 hour day. And then I'll come back and we start shooting promos. I go through scripts and we're off and running.
And then you're just moving.
Moving.
You said 4 to 5:30.
Right.
And then 6 to
6:30. And I also appear in the 5 and 5:30.
Wow.
So usually I'll do news in there.
Upcoming.
Yes.
Wow.
Tease ahead kind of thing.
So on your Facebook page, how do you make the decisions that you do to share what you share? What are your parameters?
Because my milestone moment, I'll share certain things. I don't typically talk about my kids' names and what schools they go to. That's a little too personal for me. But my kids are, of course, out there. They're 14 and 9, and for now the 14-year-old is still fair game until he says, Mom, don't want any of that out there. You know what? He's happy to be in it. So I was covering one of the Stanley Cup games the other night. He was behind the scenes. And the silliest thing happened. He knows where he can go and what he can do. And I love that he meets the mayor. And I feel like it's such an education for a 14-year-old to get to do that.
Absolutely.
When I was in Austin, then Governor George W. Bush was running. And his press secretary was Karen Hughes. And she was running the whole campaign. Her son was 14 at the time. She pulled him out of school, homeschooled him for a year, and took him on the road, on the campaign trail. Talk about an education. I've never forgotten that. And I have a son who's thirsty for knowledge, loves to meet people. He's charismatic, loves history, loves government, thinks he might want to be in the FBI one day. So I always feel like everything I can do where I can take him along is an education. But so he's here watching the Stanley Cup coverage with me, and I had just finished my show, and now Jen, Lee, and Kate were up, and they were doing a selfie, and inadvertently my son happened to walk right in between.
It's like a photo bomb.
And the selfie is everywhere, and you see my son in his baseball cap just looking at the camera, and it's the funniest thing. So we all posted it because he's like, I swear I didn't know that they were pressing the button at that moment. He's just wandering through.
Unintentional photo bomb.
I love it.
Perfectly placed.
Yes, exactly. See, maybe he's destined to be in front of the camera. I don't know. We'll see. But so I pick and choose. I do. Of course, anytime I post anything personal, it gets 10 times more likes than anything I post professionally. It's just the way it is. I guess because we're on TV, they like to know what we do behind the scenes, you know, and they like to see those behind the scene pictures. So when my son graduated from 8th grade, I took a cute selfie of us at his graduation and did that I'm a proud mom thing because he was voted most likely to be the President of the United States.
So that's cool.
Every class has one of those, but he is kind of that straight-laced, loves government, history, gets good grades, proud mom moment, right? So I called it my proud mom moment. I warned people, I know everybody's kid is special, so I had to take one of those moments. And I do the same with my daughter. She's an excellent softball player, and that's her pride and joy. So I try not to go overboard on that, but once in a while I'll post
Well,
those.
and like you said, you do share different news stories or what I can appreciate, and this is a difficult line for nonprofits because, you know, in the nonprofit community as a 501c3, you're not necessarily supposed to take a political or advocacy.
Correct.
I'm going to take that back. Not advocacy. You can advocate, but a political stance for or against it
alienates half
candidate.
your audience.
Well, and that's true as well. So, and what I've noticed is that when you're posting, you do a really nice job of here's this issue, and kind of opening it up. So take a look at Stacie Schaible.
Right,
and
it's
is it
Facebook, facebook.com /Stacie Schaible.
Yes, and you can follow her and get some really good tips for posting and things that, and yet you still make it conversational.
Right, and I will tell you, Luann, one thing I do that viewers actually comment on is if it's something outrageous, outrageously funny, outrageously bad, outrageously inferior, I will share my opinion. I'll say right off the bat, this makes me angry. And if it's a post about something a teacher did to a student that was completely inappropriate, if you disagree and it doesn't make you angry, I don't care. This should make you angry, right? I don't get political. I'm really not hugely political anyway, but that's a big no-no. We're not biased in the media. Our job is to report the facts, give you the facts, and then you take your own takeaway from that. Now that we're going into political season again, sometimes I get tired of those ads just like everybody else, but they pay our salaries, all those political ads that you see.
Absolutely.
But I will have a take on Facebook about things that make me crazy or make me happy, or I'll be like, this made me belly laugh. You have got to watch it. It's worth 1:30, right? So I post what
Well, that's
I
engaging
like.
stuff. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so they're going to have fun. We're going to have to take another break. But when we come back, a little bit about some of the things that nonprofits generally ask you because you're out a lot. And then we're also going to do our Truth or Care, which is our segment on why are you involved as you are in the nonprofit and charitable community. So we're going to take a quick break to thank our studio sponsor, the Nonprofit Leadership Center of Tampa Bay, and we'll be right back.
And now a word from our studio sponsor.
Hi, I'm Emily Benham, CEO of the Nonprofit Leadership Center, the studio sponsor for the Philanthropy Show. Today, I'd like to give you 3 tips on how you can respond to an important trend in fundraising, and that is recognizing donor loyalty. Donor loyalty has been referred to as the holy grail of fundraising. Why? Because it makes much more sense to spend resources, both time and money, on keeping the donors you have rather than the relentless pursuit of new ones. Here are 3 easy and effective ideas for you to implement right away. Number 1, at your next event, make a special presentation to those sponsors who have supported you for 5 consecutive years. Give them a shout out from the podium, put a special gift on their table. Recognize them in the program. Number 2, pick key milestones like 5 and 7 years and send a special card to donors with that number on it, thanking them for their continuous giving. And number 3, organize a thankathon. Ask volunteers, maybe even your board, to call a group of donors who have given consistently over a period of years. This is fun for the volunteers to do in a group setting, and you'll learn all kinds of things from your donors when you just call to say thank you. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you soon at the Nonprofit Leadership Center, where we educate, empower, and connect.
The Philanthropy Show is on demand every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at both thephilanthropyshow.com and YouTube/WatchMVVP-TV.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show, and we are talking with Stacie Schaible, who in the Tampa Bay area, WFLA News Channel 8, main anchor 6 p.m., and she's giving us some tips for nonprofits today on how to really craft that story, that press release that's going to get the attention. And I know that you do a lot of work in the nonprofit community with emceeing different events and whatnot, and I imagine that you have an opportunity to talk with quite a few nonprofits who probably just want to come up and, hey,
ask the questions you're asking.
Ask me questions, yes. So is there anything that I haven't asked that's like a standout that a lot of folks...
I thought of it just as you were doing this introduction. Keep it short. Keep it short. When they go on and on and on and on and on.
2- and 3-page press releases.
Oh, goodness. We never get past that first paragraph, so you better put all the meat and why we should care in the first paragraph. And I don't mean that to sound harsh, but when you're getting hundreds of these a day, you have to stand out.
Yeah.
Some way you need to stand out. And you may even slug it story idea, or you will love this, or this will make you mad, or this is a great tug at the heartstrings story. Like, tell me what I'm about to read and why I should care.
Do we talked last segment about Facebook and how to, and if you can think of that first paragraph like a Facebook post, when you're scrolling through your news feed, right?
Right.
And sometimes it'll say read more, but if it's not in that first few sentences, you're not going to click the read more anyway, right? And the visual part, the visual to grab it.
If you can put that in your press release, if you have a good picture, not just your logo, logo's great because that identifies, but a picture of something, or because typically people's stories are going to be the best, right? I could do a story on a light, nobody really cares, right? But a person, tell me, or an animal, children and pets, those are always big draws.
Well, Sharon and I, we teach here at the Nonprofit Leadership Center at the Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida, and I have a class, Telling Your Story Through Social Media. And one of the examples that I used, it didn't come from me, there's a blog that I borrowed it from, but he says, how do you introduce your child? When you're talking about your son, how do you describe your son? And then now, how do you describe your nonprofit? And those two are so drastically different, because somebody may say, my son, he loves soccer, he's feisty, he's very interested in politics or whatever.
Right.
But when they're discussing their nonprofit, they say, our mission is to accept the da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And that's not, so you're saying tell that emotional part.
And
tell that personal part.
The charity I mentioned, Starting Right Now, did such a good job at getting a succinct mission statement, right? I was there when that charity first started. I was one of the original board members.
Wow.
And the person who started it, her name is Vicki Sokolik, is just phenomenal. I mean, and she was not going to take no for an answer. And she started that charity at a time that we were in a deep recession, and nobody had money to
Didn't they
give.
win WEDU Be More
They
Awards?
did.
The PBS affiliate has WEDU Be More Awards once a year, honoring the nonprofits in different categories, and they did.
Well, and what you have to do is be able to say what your nonprofit is in a sentence, right? And make me understand it. And Starting Right Now is very complicated. And what it is helping children out of homelessness or ending homelessness one child at a time. Because they are giving each child gets a mentor, a place to live. It's what do you call, all-encompassing. I mean, it's really...
But it's also striking.
Yes.
Because when you hear the word homelessness, you don't think of children right off the bat.
No.
So saying ending homelessness one child at a time makes your ear turn around.
Right.
Too.
And it took a full day, I think, of bouncing ideas to really boil it down to what is this nonprofit all about? And it is ending homelessness one child at a time. Because it's like that old story about all of the starfish washed up on shore.
Love
and the
that.
little boy said to his grandpa, well, we can't save all of them. And he goes, well, you can save one, right? One more than you would have.
That one and that one.
And that one.
So that brings me to our Truth or Care segment, which is your heart's definition of philanthropy. Why do you do what you do in working with all these charities in the nonprofit community?
I think because I feel blessed personally, and I'm such a believer in good things happen to good people. And when I find good people who need help and I'm available to give it in any which way, because I wish I could donate to all and every single charity that I touch, but that's just not feasible. So being able to help in any way, as an MC, a facilitator, telling their story, helping them raise valuable dollars that help people who need help, it's so simple. To me, that is a no-brainer. You know, so it's a heart thing for me, and I was raised, I have to give my dad, my mom, who's the sweetest person in the world, but my dad, a lot of credit because he was a policeman. And he was the kind of policeman that didn't pull people over just to give them a ticket. He pulled people over to see what was going on. You know, you're speeding. Are you going to the hospital? Is somebody injured? Are you, you know, you didn't get a ticket unless you really deserved a ticket. So he was there to protect and serve people. And, you know, he's very irritated when police get a bad rap or a bad reputation because he did it, because he likes to help people. So he's that guy, if we're on a road trip to Colorado as kids, we did that every once in a while in that big station wagon, you know. If somebody had a flat tire, we were the ones pulling over, and if it meant we missed half a day of our trip, we helped one person out.
It wasn't a job for him. It was a lifestyle.
Really was, a calling.
Yeah.
And you know what? It wasn't a power thing with him, but he had the power to help.
That's cool.
You know, and he was one of 14 kids who had nothing. No indoor plumbing. You know, so he grew up with not a lot, so he loved giving back, and he has taught me that. And I have to tell this story if we have time, quickly. I remember he now winters down here. He's remarried and spends like 3 or 4 months of the year down here. And I had always been an anchor, but when I came to Tampa, before I moved into this role, I did a lot of 8 on Your Side stuff, where we helped people who needed consumer help. Yes. And I remember one day I helped a guy out, and my dad called after he saw the story on TV, and he was crying.
Oh.
And he said, you know, I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you, and I've been proud that you're on TV, but anchoring doesn't bring him to tears. He goes, but I am so proud that you help people. You now help people, and you make a difference. And you know what? It changed my whole view on how I did things after that. I never saw it as a story or a job or another assignment or a tough thing to tackle. I saw it as a way to help people.
That's awesome.
And I really think, you know, our TV station and a lot of TV stations have the same mission, to help people somehow. If you can help your viewers and be of service to the community, they're going to want to watch you because you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it for ratings. You're doing it to be part of the community and help people.
Well, thank you for what you do. And thank you for being so authentic, real, warm, and coming on the show.
You let me be on TV for another 30 minutes?
I know. You're working it today,
People are
girl.
going to get tired of me.
Yeah, and I doubt that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really loved having you.
My pleasure.
That's wrapping up this day's The Philanthropy Show. Be sure to join us next Monday at 4 for a brand new show. We'll see you later.
Do you have an idea for the Philanthropy Show? Contact us via our website or email us at tps@myvideovoice.com.